And I think where it becomes dangerous and insidious is when there's a lack of communication, when people are lying, hiding, and faking. Where a team member goes off and moonlights, but they're moonlighting when there's an expectation that they're going to show up, to do certain things for one company, for their what let's call them their primary employer. And it's the lying, hiding, and faking, and think that you can get away with two things simultaneously, because performance will suffer and people will start asking questions. And it'll start with, are you okay? But I can guarantee you can't keep these things secret. We live in an online world. It's all going to show up online. And I think to simply raise your hand and say, I have an opportunity. It's not a direct competition, but I want to talk to you if this is realistic. Can you help me try and figure this out? Because it's something I would like to do. And it's really about communication, and people are afraid of communication. And this opens up an entirely new conversation about a young generation that's coming to work. And I think one of the things that if we do not address it now, it'll only create problems for both the team member and the employer and the company, which is it's a generation that's actually very uncomfortable with confrontation, right? And disproportionately high number of young people who break up with somebody who they've been dating for 4 or 5 months by ghosting them, or they'd rather have difficult conversations over text rather than in person if you're in a relationship and you're fighting, right? Or leaving alternative voice memos at each other rather than having a conversation. And so one of the things that we're seeing is, like, I'll give you a real life example that I've heard of a few times. Somebody quits in sometimes dramatic fashion and sends an angry email that you don't appreciate me, you don't pay me enough. It never occurred to them to simply call up their boss and say, hey, I'd like a raise, please. And that the choice between having an uncomfortable conversation or making that request in a constructive way is so uncomfortable that they choose quitting. And I've seen this happen a lot. And so I think it becomes important to us that if we aren't teaching these skills of how to have uncomfortable conversations, how to speak up for yourself, how to talk about, creating an arrangement that may be different from what my boss is used to from the 20 years that they've been working, and how we can work together to fashion the future of work. If we don't actually start teaching those skills and having those conversations, that what we're going to end up with is people just quitting not because it's a bad corporate environment, it's because they don't know how to have a conversation to talk about something that's uncomfortable, difficult, or make a request. I mean, you and I are old enough that, if we go back, now if you go back to it's really funny, if you go back to the 50s or 60s, you never asked for a raise, but you didn't quit either. You just remained unhappy, right? And then we reach a time period where, no, I'm asking for the raise. I'm refused to remain unhappy. But we're now in a period where I'm not going to ask for the raise, and I'm not going to remain unhappy. I'm just going to leave.
I'm just going to ghost.
I'm just going to go. Which which again, it's an employee market right now. And so in the short term, you'll probably land another job and you'll be okay. That, again, it's gonna find a balance. Everything we're living in is short term, even if short term is the next few years. And I think if we're talking about helping people grow and become better versions of themselves forever, then I think the skills that we teach won't only benefit them at work, it benefits them at home. In other words, that young person that we teach how to have a difficult conversation and how to have an effective confrontation so they can ask for a raise and probably get it if they're good, that skill set comes home too, where I learn how to have a conversation with my partner in something uncomfortable. That skill set goes to the way I treat my children and treat my friends. So we're making better human beings here. It just so happens that it benefits the company as well.